G'day, it's Pete here, and today I wanted to talk about 5 things that I wish I learnt when I was starting out in bridge. Now, the first one I wanted to talk about is that learning new conventions doesn't actually make you a better bridge player. It's something that almost everyone wants to do because they can see that there's this bit of bridge knowledge that they don't actually understand. They want to learn more about it. They delve in, and then maybe they actually start playing it. But when you look at it, you don't actually genuinely improve your score very much at all by learning it. For a convention to actually help you improve your score, firstly, you need it to come up. And if you think about how often different conventions come up, it's really not that often. The second thing is you need it to get you to a different spot than if people weren't actually doing it. And you need to make sure you don't actually mess it up along the way. So, for instance, let's say that you are learning this new way to support mages and you have this really fancy auction where it goes 1 spade by partner, you bid 2 no trumps, whatever that is, and partner bids 3 clubs and 3 diamonds, 3 hearts, and you get yourself to 4 spades and you feel really happy that you've used this convention and you've learnt it, you've mastered it. But if you hadn't have done that beforehand, your auction might have just been like this: 1 spade past 4 spades. And what's actually happened is both people have gotten to the same contract. Using this convention wouldn't have actually changed your result. You don't get a good score just for using a convention. So you need to have it come up, which various conventions come up a lot, and they're actually pretty good conventions to learn. Others just don't come up that often, and they're really not that useful to try and learn. Also, you need it to help you get to a different spot than you would otherwise wouldn't be able to get to. It has to solve a problem, and you have to be able to use that effectively, because otherwise you haven't actually changed anything. And importantly, you have to make sure that you don't mess it up along the way. If you mess up a convention, you've lost nearly all the gains that you'll get from over like a year of playing it, where these advantages might come up. So learning a convention doesn't actually help you become a better bridge player in most cases. You can do very well without learning conventions, but it's something that you can see that you don't understand it and you think you'll be better for doing it, but it's really not the case. Whereas if you look at the flip side and look at learning to improve your card play, if you're a better defender, you're going to be doing that on 50% of the hands. And if that helps you get a trick, even 1 in 5 of those hands, that's huge. That is a noticeable difference. Or if you improve your declarer play, again, you'll be declaring 25% of the hands. And if even 1 of 5 of those you get an extra trick, that is huge. That will come up a lot. Improving your card play is a much better way to actually become a better bridge player, rather than just actually adding in a convention to your system. The second thing that I wanted to go over is that it's actually okay to go down in contracts a lot of the time. Often when you are taught, it's so much about you have to make your contract, and it's really good to do that. There's actually a couple of ways you can get good scores by going down in contracts. The first one is I want to talk about who you're actually comparing with. Let's say you go down 1 in a contract and you get minus 100. And you think, oh, my opponent's got plus 100, which that's the people at the table, their score. Who you're actually compared with most of the time playing bridge is all the people that get the same cards as you at different tables. And what that means is if you get minus 100 and everyone else sitting in the same seats as you got minus 140 instead, you're 40 points better off than them. So it's not that you went negative and you've gotten a bad score. Often people feel like the score that they actually get there is a representation of how good they did or not. But you can have really good scores where your score is negative because everyone else that has the same cards as you goes more negative. Another thing is sometimes you can be unlucky. So let's say we're thinking about, do we bid a game contract or don't we? And to make the game contract, you take 2 finesses and you just needed 1 of them to work. That's 75% of the time you would be getting your game contract. And if you did that, you would get a plus 620 for making it, but the 25% of the time, the 2 finesses fail, you go minus 100. Now, whenever you go down, you're getting a bad score. It's worthwhile to think about is, if you keep doing this over and over and over again, imagine you got that same hand, but you kept rearranging the opponent's cards. it would be really good to keep bidding that game. So while you might get a bad score as such on that particular hand, you want to be thinking with the knowledge that you had, which is just about your cards, was it a good spot to get to, and keep doing that. Don't dwell on the fact that it went down this time. Think about, was it a good spot to be getting to, and doing that time and time again. The number 3 thing that I wanted to talk about is make sure you review your hands after you play them. Often I'll see people that play their bridge, and once they're done, they're out of there. But if you want to improve at this game, reviewing the cards that you play are by far the best thing that you can actually do. So the first thing that I do is ask people questions. Find the best player in your club or the best person you know and ask them questions about their hand. What should you or shouldn't you have done? Another thing that you can actually do is look at hand records or double dummy and see, is there anything that could have been done? Now, this is a bit of a double-edged sword because sometimes it will suggest things that just aren't practical. Like, it's worthwhile looking at it, but just check, how did it do it? Did it know to drop a singleton king or underlead an ace, or things that just shouldn't happen? You want to check that they're not really the case. But it's a good guide for what could have been done, but just don't take it at face value that that's what should be done. It just highlights, if everyone knew where all the cards were, what could be done. But it's a useful tool to look at. The third thing that I would actually recommend is just discussing with your partner. What did you think this bid meant? Or what did you interpret by my play? Things that may or may not have come up, discuss and get some extra knowledge with your partnership about what's actually happening, and you can really flesh that out a bit. The final thing that I want to do is talk about how you should talk about hands. So let's say that we've got this hand up here, and we want to ask an expert, what should we have done with it? Now, if you're trying to describe this hand to people, often I'll see people go, oh, I've got king, jack, 10, 9, 8 to 7 spades. I've got ace, jack, third heart. I've got ace, doubleton club, and a singleton jack of diamonds. And as people are hearing that, they have no idea what was actually happening. So if you want to discuss a hand where someone can't actually see it, it's worthwhile setting up the framework to help them understand it. And there's 3 parts to this. The first part is I like to tell people how many high card points they've got. So here, I would say you have 14 high card points. The second thing I'd do is give them their hand shape in order of spades, hearts, diamonds, clubs. So I'd say you've got 7 spades, you've got 3 hearts, 1 diamond, and 2 clubs. And now we've set the framework for what they've got. And then I'd start describing the hands. So they know they've got 14 high card points with 7, 3, 1, 2. And you go king, jack, 10 to 7, ace, jack, third, singleton, jack, ace, doubleton. And if you keep doing this and describing it that way, people will find it a lot easier to actually follow along. The fourth thing I wanted to talk about is how to count. So here we'll jump in and actually look at a hand. When playing a hand, I think it's extremely useful to learn to count down. And you want to do this at trick 1. So what do I mean by counting down? So what I like to do is see how many of a suit I've got, how many dummies got. Take that away from 13. That's how many the opponents have left over. So here in hearts, I'd say I've got 6 hearts, dummies got 3, we've got 9. The opponents have 4 in total. And as you play hearts, you'd see that number go from 4 to 2 to 1 to 0, or 4 to 0, or whatever. And the number gets smaller as you progress. The other way you might just instinctively start doing it is you play around a heart and say, oh, 4 hearts went. And then, oh, 3 went. Then 3 went again. And then trying to count that up. And as you play the hand, you have to start remembering larger numbers, and you're often going to start making more mistakes because you have to remember everything that's gone past. Whereas if you start counting down, I don't need to remember how many hearts I started with because I counted that straight away, and I don't need to keep track of that. The second thing is, if you ever see a player show out in a suit, it's worthwhile to stop and say, how many did the other player start with, or how many did they have left? And your end goal in this should be that what you want to work to as a bridge player is being able to count all 4 suits. Now, you might start with 1 suit and then progress up to 2 suits, and then 3, and then 4. But being able to count all 4 suits is what you want to be able to do by the end. So practice counting and getting better. Counting down will be a lot easier. So let's just take a quick look at this. So in hearts, we've got 9. The opponents have 4. And diamonds, we've got 6. The opponents have 7. So I'm trying to count the suits that they show. So let's say we play a diamond, and now we're going to start drawing trumps. So here I play a heart. They started with 4. They're down to 2. And then play another one, and they're down to 1. East showed out. So West started with 3. East had 1. West has 1 left. And now I know they've got 1 heart left. And that's great. Let's now look at clubs. We've got 6 clubs. The opponents have 7. So we'll start playing clubs. So here they get 1. They're down to 5. And they play another one. They're down to 3. If they play another club, they're down to 1. And here I don't know who's got the last club, but I would say the clubs were 4-3. They both followed every time. And let's go back to diamonds. We played 1 round earlier. Dummy started with 5 and I had 1, so that was 6. The opponent started with 7. So here we'll play another diamond. And here West shows out. So straight away I go, ooh, East started with 6 diamonds and West 1. 5, 1, 1, 6. And this is what you want to be able to get to as your end goal. Now, it's really difficult to count all 4 hands without practice, but it's important to understand to become a really good bridge player, counting the cards is important. You want to try and count down. If you see someone show out, work out what that shape was. And your end goal is to be able to count all 4 hands. So start practicing on this because it will take a long time to sort of build up the skill. You want to get really good at counting 1 suit, then move to trying to count 2 suits, and then 3, and then 4 ultimately. And you'll go from there. So they're my tips that I wish I had learnt when I was a beginner. So the 5 things that we were learning conventions doesn't make you a better bridge player. It's okay to go down in contracts. Make sure you review your hands after you play them, and learning how to count's important. They're my 4 things I wish I knew when I was starting out at bridge. Anyway, thanks all for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye for now.